welcome to video 3. I'll be using this photograph and this title and a Bow Bunny back-to-backs paper. It's a yellow paper with some little yellow spots. I'm using a gesso here to just dampen down the colour on the front of this page and giving it a little bit of a spritz. I just really want a very, very light toned down effect in the centre of this page for this layout. I do like the very bright yellow, but find sometimes it can just be a little bit too much. So I've got a stencil here and I'm just having a look to see what the on-side and off-side are. All stencils have a flatter side that is intended to go close to the paper so that it minimises bleeding. I'm using here a Dreamweaver Glossy Texture Paste. It's one of those products that is been in my kit for a while and is sort of coming to the end of its usefulness really. So I'm just trying to use up the supply, but I was finding it quite difficult to spread, which is why I'm going back and forward over it. Something you really shouldn't do. I do have a piece of, tray of water to the side of me that I put my stencil in so that it doesn't dry out whilst I'm finishing the rest of the layout. And I'm just wiping off a little bit just to clean up the edges where I went on to the next jigsaw piece and I didn't really want part jigsaw pieces there. So I'm just going to get my heat gun and dry off the page a little bit. Taking very care not to heat it too much so it doesn't bubble. And then I finish my drying and I'm just bending the paper there. Just to keep it flat. And now I'm just thinking about where I'm going to put my title and my picture and what I'm going to do. I've grabbed a Dilutions ink here just to take down some of the whiteness. So I was taking down the yellowness and now I'm taking down the whiteness with a bit of yellow. Just so that I've got a nice mixed colouring on this sheet. I don't know why I hadn't removed the strip there. I've just realised that I hadn't removed it, so I've taken that off. And I have this fabric sort of paper. So you take a water brush like I have here and you can wet along the edge. And I found that the water brush wasn't quite as effective as a paintbrush and water. And this gives sort of a feathering effect to the page, so as you wet it you can then tear and pull away part of the paper to sort of give a soft feathered effect. I've done a straight edge there just to do the feathering, but then I thought actually I might like a softer sort of flow to this, so I've wet it and you can see how easy that was to tear. Not quite sure how much of the paper I want. I don't want a full sheet, so I've taken that bit off there. And I do start to mark down this to rip it again and then think, actually, I might want to keep it at the size it is. But I do actually want that straighter edge, sort of a bit more of a flow to it. So I'm just taking a little bit more off there. I'm getting the heat gun again to dry this. I don't want to do the left side as you see it at the moment with the water and rip it because of this mark that I've already made on the paper. So I'm just drying that off so that it has a hard structure again so that it won't tear when I go and pull off that side, just to give it all a ripped edging all the way around this piece of paper. So now that that's dried, you can see that little mark that I had on the paper is gone. Didn't quite wet it enough, so I had to put a bit more water on there and pulling that away. And now I'm just making sure it's flat and pulling out as many fibres as I can, just so that it gives that furry sort of effect. Pop that down there, and I quite like that, but it needs a little bit of something. I'm thinking about splattering on the piece of paper with the Adirondack ink, but then I thought actually I won't use that, but while it's in my hand I will use it for these chipboard pieces. So I'm painting out these chipboard pieces. I haven't actually masked these ones off. Sometimes I will paint them so that they're white, so that I get a really, really crisp colour. But in this instance, I kind of wanted it a little bit darker than the rest of the yellows on the page, so I didn't paint it before I started using the ink on it. I quite like the way that is. Because it's a chipboard and not actually a wood piece, it does soak in, a lot of the water soaks in, which is why it goes darker, and when you dry it off it gets a bit lighter again. So I'm going to use here Jane Davenport Mermaid Marker to splatter. I think they're quite easy and quite good to use to splatter, and the colour is very dark and very effective. So I'm popping these down, thinking about putting them sort of lopsided, the brackets, and just arranging where I might like them. Thinking this bit down the bottom next to the bracket is a great place to put some journaling later on. I've grabbed a piece of cotton and I'm just putting that behind the photograph to give a little bit more of a fluid and bit of movement. This stamp set is a Scrapper Cocoa stamp. It is a road sign, and I'm going to just test this on that scrap piece of paper that I cut off. I'm not sure about this fabric paper and whether it would bleed. So I'm using a black tuxedo black Memento ink to stamp that down there, and then cleaning off my stamp. You will notice that I do like to clean and put things away as I'm working. I like quite a clean workspace. So now I'm just stamping some words into my road signs. So it says near and far in there, and again just popping those away and thinking about what else we might like to do here. I quite like where things are, so I'm just going to start sticking down these things now. I stuck the glue, the tape on the back of the paper, but I'm finding it a right nightmare to pull it off. I struggle with this lower piece for quite some time. Anyway, this page I'm making is for a Facebook group challenge, and the challenge is 2 pages a week for the month of January, and they have different themes. So this one is using 2020 in your layout and talking on your layout about the year to come and perhaps some New Year's resolutions. I don't actually have any New Year's resolutions. It's not something I usually do. So I just wanted to talk about what this year was going to be like. It's going to be me and my husband, so just about us. I like the title there, so I am using my glossy accents to stick that down, and I also use the glossy accents to stick down the arrow, the bracket, whilst I've got it in my hand. The title, New Year 2020, is a Bramble Fox Perspective. And I'm just getting another stamp here because I think that I might stamp this. It's sort of like a banner, and it says everything will be okay. And this is a ohdearmekit.com stamp. So then I'm going to draw my lines and do my journaling. My journaling, as I say, just is about the fact that this year is just going to be me and my husband together, doing whatever we like, whenever we like, as the children have gone off to university, and so they are taking care of themselves, and it's just me and my husband, or will be me and my husband most of the time, and everything will be okay, because it will. Now I'm going to put some little flowers on the page. So I've got a few to stick out behind both sides of this photograph, and a couple of little singular ones that I'm sticking on there. This top one lost the diamante, so I am just gluing it back in. And the final things that I'm going to add, I have a little sort of rubber plastic square little embellishment that has writing on it. I can't remember what it actually says right now. And I also have some little enamel dots. They're clear enamel dots with just some glitter in them, just to add a little bit of bling. And as the last thing that always goes on my page is my cat. I had that one to the side of the bracket, but then thought actually having it sat in the middle looking at my writing would work well. So that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll be back soon to watch the next video. Thank you very much. Bye bye.